This is the Deering Acting Studio Podcast, where we discuss the connection between life and acting.
Alrighty, everybody, welcome back to the Deering Acting Studio Podcast. Hello, Shay, who's joining us remotely.
Hi, guys.
Social distancing from the old home, still doing the podcast. I love it.
Woo!
How's Blue doing over there, Shay?
Oh, Blue is just about done with both mom and dad being home.
Yeah?
Yeah, she's good. She just wants to run and play, and I think she's bored.
Blue is bored, so this virus is really affecting the dog at the home.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, the dogs at home are just like, what is going on, But we don't have to put her in the crate.
There's this big concern now with people getting divorced because they're not used to spending time together. This is like a real thing. I'm serious. The divorce rate went up in China, so they're literally worried about it. I wonder if this is a thing with dogs and their owners too. If they're going to start seeing dogs running away,
or if some dogs are just like all about it. Some dogs are just like yes, and the owners are going to be like, "Wow, I did not know this is what having a dog was like."
I mean, my question would be, how bad does the dog feel after it's over and the human's not home anymore?
I know. That's what I'm so worried about. Be like, oh, parents, where did you go?
So we are having this podcast today because I got a text from a friend and a student and somebody that we all love around here, and she was asking for some advice, and I thought it was just such a really great text message that she sent over, and so I was like, yeah, sure, I'd be happy to help you tomorrow. And then as I was kind of ruminating on that idea, I thought to myself, hey, why don't we just do a podcast? Because if you're having these feelings, probably a lot of other people are having these feelings. So this is not breaking news right now, but Arizona's on lockdown. That's what's going on. Everybody know that?
Starting 5 p.m. tonight.
Yeah, the governor comes out and says, I'm officially adding Arizona to the lockdown list. And so I just want to, before we get to BB, I want to ask, how did you all react? Like how did the news hit you? What was your feeling? What was your gut reaction?
I mean, I knew it was coming, so I wasn't that worried about it. 'Cause I'd read up about it, like that it was gonna happen, and then it did, like 2 hours after I read on it. So it didn't hit me like a like.
Well, so then how did it hit you 2 hours before?
2 hours before, I was like, that kind of makes sense. Arizona people haven't been taking it seriously,
So it didn't really hit you.
No.
Okay. What about you, Brian?
My gut hit me with negativity. First thing first, and just a little bit of fear, but just like immediately trying to figure out how everything's going to work around that and what that's going to look like. Mm-hmm. And so that was honestly that first reaction was going into that place. And so as a team, we were on the phone and sort of talking through masterclass ideas right before we ended up getting that information. And so it was actually in that conversation before it actually even happened that we brought up the possibility of it happening. And I just honestly, I blame Joey because he's a master manifester. So,
what about you, Shay? How did it hit you?
Well, what was interesting is I've kind of been, I don't know, keeping it in my mind that it has seemed like for the past month that these big announcements, I don't know if you guys have noticed, but it's happened every Monday. So each week.
No, but that's really interesting.
There's been an announcement, and it's on a Monday.
Amazing. That is like a conspiracy theory right there, Shay.
I know. And I'm like, okay, that's so weird. Like I figured if anything was going to come out, it would have happened yesterday. And what was so interesting is, all four of us are like, we have been for the past 3 weeks now, just going over ideas and trying to stay positive. And then we got off the phone, and it was funny because my husband is upstairs in his office working, and he sent me a text message like while we were on the FaceTime, and I didn't look at it. And he sent me the KTAR article that was like Ducey's shutting down Arizona starting 5 p.m. tomorrow. And it was just such an odd thing. And I guess I just felt like, well, time to make a new plan. Like, you know, what they say, you have a plan for A, B, C, D. And I'm that type of person. I have a plan for everything, but I'm like, well, you know, we got the call. So now we got to take action in a different way.
Yeah. It's like you have a plan for A, B, C, D, E, but not quarantine. Like that's just not one that you have
no, that
on
does
the
not
list.
hit any of the alphabetical letters of plans. No, it doesn't.
And so I tell you how it hit me. It hit me like a punch in the stomach, truthfully. So I make fun of myself sometimes. I put this video up last night where I was like, well, what do you think now, Mr. Positivity? How are you going to handle this one? You know, because I really do try to see glass half full. And when this happened, I thought, geez, I keep not thinking it's going to go as far as it goes. And then it goes there. And you can't positive your way out of it. Like it's going to happen. But what you can do is be very conscious about how you react. So that is something that is absolutely within our control. Right. No, it hit me in the stomach. And, you know, we're going to be talking about this throughout the podcast, and we're going to give a step-by-step idea of how you can guarantee that you will be thriving during lockdown. And I'm going to tell you that if you follow these steps, I really do guarantee that you will thrive during lockdown. And so one of the ideas, I mean, one of the things that just to remember is to be very quick to admit how you feel. And I mean, it's really important. So one of the things I did immediately was I called Leanne. I'll talk about that later. But I did put up that video right away. So I took to social media, put myself on camera, and I was like, I'm feeling like this, and here's what I'm going to do about it. So like you said, Shay, like having a game plan, that's another idea. And again, we'll dive into that a little bit later. So we've got BB, who's on standby, and I know we're going to be bringing her in here in a minute. So let's get BB on standby, Brian. Actually, we can just bring her in if she's ready.
Yeah.
Is she there?
Mm-hmm.
Hey, BB Katsinas.
Hello.
Hi, Beeb.
We got a little lag going on here. BB. Hey,
right, cool.
There she is.
And you know what? What's funny is we're staying very casual over here because we've got Joey making tamales literally right now because we're so hungry.
Starved.
Keeping it real.
We decided to do this live podcast, and then at the same time we were thinking to ourselves, gosh, we're not set up yet. And then by the time we got set up, we're like, man, we haven't had lunch yet, so we really need tamales.
Also, my new breakfast trend is peanut butter waffles. Try it.
Oh yeah,
it's delicious.
Oh, so good.
It's so good.
And you still put a little bit of syrup on it, but like you throw some peanut butters on some plain waffles.
Yo, you stink, man. Like, tell me after I've had my tamales. Like, I'm so hungry right now. I could eat the microphone.
You could eat the.
True.
Try it.
So, BB, before we get to your text message here, I just want to really quick. I want to stop for a second and just say thank you to everyone out there who is working. So, because we're going to address a lot of people that are not working right now, and I just want to stop and say thank you. We put a video out a few days ago saying thank you to the first responders that are out there. Would love if everybody would go out there, share that video, like it. That would help it reach more people and just tell YouTube, hey, this is a good video. We want to keep sending out to more people. I also want to mention the other people who are out there working, the grocery store workers, the delivery truck people, everyone delivering any kind of goods, our mail people. We've got police officers and firefighters. There are just a lot of people out there serving right now, and they really need to be thanked. We also did a podcast with Joey and Brian's dad, Brad Sweeney, that's really good up on the website, our podcast with him. He's a manager over at one of the major grocery stores here locally.
You can say it.
Can I?
Yeah.
I was afraid I wasn't allowed.
He
You're
allowed
allowed.
me.
It's
he,
okay.
He told me that it was okay to put it in the description.
Because it was a great podcast. I think he needed to like know after until the first. Okay, it's Bashes. I'll just like throw it out there. They're a great company, by the way. Really cool. Anyway, there's a great podcast there. But we want to stop and say thank you to all these people, because it's a really big deal that they are out there willing to serve us, and they're putting their lives on the line, and they're like, I really am sincerely grateful. So I just want to start there.
Yeah.
Matt, can I say something really quickly?
Yeah, please.
This is really interesting. I was talking to my best friend yesterday, and her husband both work for Enterprise, the rental car company, and we were chatting, and it was so funny because she reached out to me and she goes, how are you doing, best friend? That's how we talk to each other. And I said, I'm good. We got on lockdown. She goes, yeah, we're still working. And I'm like, what do you mean you're still working? Even with the statement? And she goes, yeah, we are considered we are essential workers because of, and it clicked in my head, because of all the people that they're serving who have to get to doctor's appointments, all the students that don't have a place to go because they're stuck.
Yeah.
And it was just so interesting, because you don't think a company like, my first thought, like Enterprise rental car will pick you up, would not be an essential business. And like, my heart broke for her, because I'm like, man, she's got to go in there every day and put her health on the line, because other people need this essential business that may not be as essential to everybody else. So that was just something that really opened my eyes, beyond all the essential people that we see and love and know and support. There's also other people who, may just be working a regular job that they do, and it's still they're still on the front lines. So that's something big I realized yesterday.
Well, and it's a big reminder that we should just even be careful about that idea of regular jobs. It can start to feel like that sometimes, but really we all contribute to this society in some way. And this is sort of bringing that to light in a lot of ways. Remind me to come back to this, Shay, because in another section,
sure.
I might want to come back to something you said here about rental cars. All right, so we have BB on the phone. We might as well talk to her, I guess, since she's here.
Hey, babe.
It's not a bad idea.
Just here. It looks like she got muted.
She got
muted.
Why would you mute
Sorry,
BB?
You
muted yourself?
Wow.
I had
thought
a little bit of background noise that I didn't want to
Okay.
disturb the podcast.
Wow.
So BB's like an excellent human being, and she's off to USC and having like a normal life as a college student, and then all of a sudden, whoops, I'm getting sent home, and your life's been turned upside down like everyone else. And so I get this text message from her last night, and I'm going to read part of it here. She says something very nice about our family, and then she says, I wanted to reach out because she says, I'm sure you're maximizing this quarantine and using it to go above and beyond personally and professionally. Thank you for assuming that of me, BB. And I'm going to tell you that you're right. I am actually doing exactly that thing. And but the way that I'm doing it might surprise you. So I believe I'm feeling all the same feelings that you're feeling. And and this is why we're here. It's why we're talking today. The key is to admit those feelings immediately, to bring that up and find people that you can talk to. So just the fact that you're here, that you wrote that text message, and that you're seeking advice, that's absolutely the first step.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Feels good to hear.
Well, yeah, and I mean, you have to want it. You have to really want this. So I'll keep going here. You want to clarify the end here about your real question, because you were saying something about you're having difficulties at home. So why don't you go a little deeper into that?
Yeah. Well, basically, so I mean, I'm at school and there's all this momentum and I've got a routine and things are going well and I feel like I'm in a good place and I felt really artistically stimulated and felt really driven and really enjoyed the stuff I was doing. And then I'm uprooted, I'm back home and it's just hard to keep that momentum and to stay driven and inspired and motivated. The people around me would otherwise be motivating me and have that like camaraderie of people around me are not, surrounding me anymore. And it's how do I keep that self accountability and yeah, sorry, I'm losing my train of thought, but how do I maintain the self accountability to stay growing and progressing while I'm not, where I was?
No, well, Matt's thinking about that. Can you mute really quick the live that's going on also? Do you have that muted? I'm hearing like a feedback, so I want to make sure. Are you watching the live YouTube also?
Me?
Yeah.
No, I was talking and my dad was washing his hands. So
okay. It's just randomly feeding back.
Maybe
No
it's
biggie.
Shay. Are you doing that, Shay, on your end?
Shay?
No,
Okay.
I'm not.
All right. Well, we're not sure where that's coming from. All right.
I'll try
So
something.
good. So you're so we talked about this. The first step is accountability. Accountability means this. You right now are holding yourself accountable. You're saying, I know what I'm capable of. I know what I expect of myself, and I am not living up to that thing. Good. Second step, reach out for help. And you got to be careful who you reach out to, because people are going to give you different pieces of advice and you kind of know them. So you reached out to someone who you know is a stickler, who's probably going to be hard on you on purpose. So again, good for you. So then the third step, and this is where we really got to get to, is you need to have a game plan. And Shay said that. She's like, oh, I got this news. And I said, oh my gosh, well, I need a new game plan. And that's the truth. So the deal here is if you can focus on getting more honest with yourself and using this as a wake-up call to say, wow, you know what? I was disciplined, but not all of my discipline choices were my own. Some of my habits were being placed on me. So, for instance, I was being told to get up and go to school at a certain time. That was a really good discipline for me. It made me feel good. I didn't realize it. Sometimes I maybe didn't even want to get up and go to, thank you, Joy, to get up and go to school. But this set of circumstances were forcing me to do that thing. Now I'm going, oh, that was actually somebody else helping me. I wasn't doing that for myself. So you need to figure out, how do I create my own habits, rituals in the beginning of the day, and make sure that these things are something that whatever it is, I'm never going to miss this thing again for the rest of my life until I purposefully adjust whatever those things are. You with me? BB? Is BB muted again?
Let's see. She left.
Oh, she popped off. Okay, good. So hopefully that made sense to you, BB. And so let me give you a couple more things, some more steps here that we can take. So first and foremost, I really firmly believe in affirmations. What you tell yourself in the morning is so important, and what you tell yourself at the end of the day is these bookends that you can put onto your day. So if you are willing to write out affirmations and then say them out loud every day, that's going to be huge for you. Number 2, create habits. Decide what habits you're going to have. Don't just let the world or whatever you're doing impose those habits upon you. You set your own, you create your own habits. And really, the habits that you want to create for yourself need to include mind, body, and spirit. So what are you doing to fill your spirit? What are you doing to help yourself physically? And what are you doing to stimulate your mind and to create more things? And if you create that game plan for yourself, and you have a really, really specific routine that is yours, that's not a job, it's not a school, it's not your parents, but it's yours, then it's crazy because not even this pandemic can get in your way.
Right.
And I'm going to tell you right now, you're not alone. this is hard for everybody. There's nobody that this is not hard for right now. So is it more hard for me right now than usual? Absolutely. But my habits are saving me. So I was able to wake up this morning and do my habits and feel really good and energized, only because I had a ritual already worked out. If I didn't have that,
Right.
I'd be way more lost than I currently am.
Was
Right.
lost,
Yeah.
but now
That is
I'm found.
Very good, Joey. Very good.
that is feedback. It's coming from Shay. Now, because BB's gone, then I can still hear it.
Oh, that makes sense.
So it is coming from the cell phone. Just
Fly.
FYI.
Getting some feedback from you, Shay.
That's what that sounds.
Sorry, guys.
Is
That's all right. We forgive you.
Maybe
she's on speaker or
Are you on
something?
speaker? Do you have us on speaker?
Yeah, that's
that's what it is.
is that better?
Yeah, you have to
Is that
go to
better?
regular.
Yeah.
Much better.
Oh, Shay.
Wow.
Sorry, guys.
Now you're not
I
ruining
didn't
the
know.
sound. It's so
Incredible.
BB Katsina says, my Wi-Fi went out and had to reconnect, and now I'm in the Zoom waiting room.
great. Oh, good. Let's bring her back on. We'll finish up
Bring
this
her
stuff.
back on.
I mean,
wrap it.
we could just tell her she missed her opportunity.
No, bring her back on.
Bring her back on. I don't know. Just kidding.
Yeah, we like BB. She's
We
all
like
right.
BB.
Hello,
There we
BB.
go.
Hey,
I'm
there you
sorry.
are.
That's
like
right.
when you got to like the best part of what you're saying.
Well, for sure.
Totally.
And the problem is I can't repeat it because this is a live podcast.
But you heard it.
It
So.
was great because Matt had this like awesome speech, and then he goes, boom, dead silence. You with me? Boom, dead silence.
Yeah, I was
BB?
trying to get some feedback from
And
you on
I'm
that.
standing up doing something else, and he's like, "Brian, is she muted or just gone?"
So BB, let me give you the Cliff's notes, okay? Because you probably, if your Wi-Fi went out, you didn't.
Wait. The Cliff's Notes?
Yeah, is that
Oh
bad?
yeah,
Cliff's Notes?
Why Cliff's? Is that funny?
Cliffs is a great guy.
Cliffs.
That's who gives the
It's,
notes.
it's called Cliff Notes.
Oh, you know what? Sorry, I never used it, so I don't know.
No, Joey, there's two S's.
Oh, bomb drop!
Called me out and you got
Bam.
slammed.
Since when?
I don't know,
Oh.
but I trust BB. She's from USC. She probably
The Cliff's
uses
Notes?
Cliff's notes all the time.
I don't know.
I promise you, it's spelled. It like most people pronounce it Cliff Notes, but it's Cliff's Notes.
So it's pronounced one way and spelled another.
I mean, I guess you could pronounce it either, but a lot of people don't pronounce the first S.
So BB, since your Wi-Fi went down, you didn't hear anything I said on the live either, right?
No, not after you started talking about self-accountability and then it went out.
Okay, cool. So I'm gonna give you the Cliff's notes here, really quick, and then we will move on to Danielle and her question. So, basically, it was this: you're gonna have to have a game plan. So, realize that you need to set habits that are yours, not a school's, not your parents', not anybody else's. They're your habits. That way you really legitimately do have control over them. And there are certain things that it doesn't matter anything, you could still do it. So if I focused on, let's say, a body is going to be something in my morning, well, if the gym is closed, I can still do push-ups. It doesn't stop me. So it doesn't have to be so specific that it ruins me. It just has to be, I'm going to do this every single day. So focus on mind, body, spirit. Create a routine for yourself. As a matter of fact, the CDC, when they announced a lot of this stuff, they said, we highly recommend people maintain their habits. What they don't realize is that most people have their habits put on for them, and so they don't. So all of a sudden, when you don't go to work or you don't have your routine anymore, you feel lost. So you have to create that for yourself, and that's why I do my crazy early mornings, is because I know for a fact nothing can rock me from my routine. It's a guarantee. As long as I wake up, I'm going to get through my routine, and I will set myself up in the morning for success.
Well, and the other super cool part about this is, if we realize it, one of the major excuses that we give ourselves and that we hear from students and from people is, I don't have enough time. Like, I don't have enough time to do these things. Well, now you have all kinds of time to do that and figure this stuff out. And
Well, and that's one of the problems, though. Like, I'm going to tell you, because I talk about time all the time. I talk time all the time.
He does
all the
talk about time all the time.
But for real, we have so much time.
We absolutely do.
It's an incredible amount of time you have during the day. And now that people are realizing it, they're just feeling bored.
Mm-hmm.
And because they feel bored, they feel depressed. And when they stay indoors or they're not feeling productive, they're not feeling like they're next leveling their life, it just makes you sad.
Yeah.
So you have to do something that takes you out of that.
Sure.
Thanks, Joey.
Full time.
All right, cool. We got to wrap up here, BB. You have anything you want to end with here?
I think you encapsulated it pretty well, but thank you so much. And I'm really excited to make a game plan and feeling better.
Good. Keep listening. I've got more to this that I'm going to help you with to guarantee that you thrive during lockdown.
Woo! Thanks, BB.
All right.
Thanks, Beebs.
Shay, I don't care what you say. I think BB's pretty cool.
Oh.
He loves doing that joke. That's a good joke.
I know.
That's a good one.
That is. He did.
Hey, Brian, I don't see you. So this is me segue bantering for you to bring. So you go
So
ahead
I
and
can
bring
jump on
Danielle
to.
in.
Oh,
Yeah,
Danielle's there. Yeah, I was gonna open up with sort of talking about her really quick and just the conversation we had, and
Got
then
it.
pull her in real quick. So
Do you need me to banter more, or are you
no,
ready to go?
I think
Okay.
the banter
All right, cool.
we could put on a pause. You can go ahead and take a bite of that tamale.
I'm about to bite my tamale. I
Pause
cannot wait.
on the banter.
I think that's what the viewers want to see.
the
now.
Joey got
viewers
some.
really
he got
wanna
some
see
green
some
green
tamale
hot
bites.
sauce. Oh, dude.
And
it's
guys,
so good.
now I'm hungry, okay? I wasn't, and now I am. So Danielle and I were talking on the phone earlier today, and we were just sort of going through just what's going on right now, and I sort of asked her where she's at. She's a school teacher, and so I just was kind of
She's
curious.
a high school teacher.
Yeah, high school teacher, and so you emphasized that really big there, Shay.
I just mean like that's insane. And she's in her 20s and she's teaching a bunch of high schoolers, and it's an incredible feat.
Absolutely, and she is amazing at bringing motivation to her classroom. Like on her Instagram, she's always posting like really cool things that she puts in the room, encouraging quotes and things to just help her students stay in the right mindset. So I was just curious about some of the stuff that she had been doing, and she said her classes are going really well, but one of her biggest concerns was sort of on fear. And so Danielle, hey Danielle. I thought you could kind of share with us sort of where you're at, and she had a question for Matt on fear specifically, and so we'd love to hear where you're at right now, Danielle, and just a little bit about that question you had for him.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I feel so cool to be on the Deering podcast.
So cool having you. I love that
Yeah.
background. That is so cool.
What's up?
The Philippians in the background.
Oh, you can see it?
Yeah.
Don't worry or be anxious about anything, but turn to prayer, it says. Yeah.
Good time for that quote.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, but actually that's so funny that quote. So basically, I've always kind of been an overthinker, and especially during this time, I find myself overthinking even more so, like, oh my gosh, my neighbor,
Girl,
she has
preach.
a runny nose. Oh, I have a cough. My parents have a cough. Like, do we have the virus? And I just find myself getting like caught up in my thoughts. And I know it seems silly, but I feel like a lot of people are doing that. So my question for you guys is, how do you overcome, and how do you overcome fear, and how do you recommend handling fear during this scary time?
Well, great question. You want me to just take off here?
Yeah, please, Matt, take off.
Okay, so obviously there's a lot of fear going on right now, and yes, it's scary. I have an entire chapter 2 in the book that I'm writing right now about fear, and I went back and I reread that today, and I was like, oh, dude, you got to listen to your own advice. Like, it's pretty good, So here's the deal. Here's what we can do. There is good fear and there's bad fear. Fear is not going to go away, so don't be afraid of fear. Don't think that this is something you can conquer or you can overcome or you can just like wipe it away. That's impossible. It's always going to be there. But understand that there's a reason why we have fear. There's a reason God put fear inside of us. So obviously, number one, we're supposed to fear God, but number two, he's given us this fight or flight response. It's inside of us, and it's biological. So the good fear we have right now for coronavirus, the good fear is, okay, we're being told a certain thing. Let's social distance in a good way because we're afraid that we're going to spread this and some people are going to get hurt. So that's a good fear, and we're willing to listen to that fear, and we're willing to do our part to help stop that from happening. The bad fear is the fear that where you are purposefully hurting yourself. So if you go back and you source it and you say, okay, why am I reading the news right now? Why am I listening to the news? So I had this, we were talking about this earlier on the podcast, that when I heard we're on lockdown, I felt like I got punched in the stomach. I haven't listened to the news on the radio in 2.5 years. On my way home from the studio yesterday, I listened to the news. Why'd I do that? I already knew. I just wanted to hear the latest update or somebody else say it or whatever. And what that does is it just makes you feel worse. So there's this concept where I say you need to be informed. Of course you should be informed. But as soon as you know the information, if you're going back to the source, all you're doing is you're kind of reliving it, rehashing it, and you're honestly just hearing somebody else's opinion of the thing you already know. So what you're doing is you're focusing on what you can't do. And what I believe firmly in is saying, okay, what can I do? What are the positives? How can I use this to better the world? Use this to better myself? What can I do today? What are the things that they're saying I can do? And my video last night was on this principle of reread. If you haven't done so yet, read the governor's order. Read it word for word. And highlight all the things that are positive in there. There's a lot of things that are positive. He's saying, stay home. That's the only negative thing in there. The second thing is stay healthy. Okay, check. I agree with that. And step 3 is stay connected. So that means keep communicating with the people that you always communicate with. Stay in your classes. For you, communicate with parents the best you can. How can you give? How can you send out curriculum? How can you help in some way? The things that fulfill you, make sure that you stay active and connected to those things. It's really, really important for your soul. And so, is this a scary time? Yes, 100%. We are living through a scary time. But do we have to let this fear take us over right now? Or can we acknowledge what it is and then go to the other side of it and say, okay, I agree I'd like to be fearful of the coronavirus enough to social distance because I believe it's best for humanity for me to separate for 30 days. Okay, cool. Is it good for me and humanity for me to start thinking about all the worst case scenarios that could possibly happen and start thinking about a zombie apocalypse and going and hoarding toilet paper? Probably not. And that's what's getting us. That type of fear is the bad fear, and it's cancerous. So that's what you got to be careful of.
Thank you. Yeah, that was really helpful.
You guys have anything to add on that? Shay?
I think that's a really good question, Danielle, and I'm the same way as you, and I overthink and I overanalyze every single situation. And I have tried to, I've always been the type of person I don't watch the news either. And I'm very adamant on my stance of, I don't believe you should talk about something that you haven't done your research on. So I will keep my opinions out of things that I don't an opinion for. And what I have tried to do in this mess is, which was so great, the attitude that we've had with Daring Acting Studio, and it has affected my life personally and my own life, because the first thing we did was figure out how we can help other people. And that's what I did in my personal life. So I thought, so every day, what I've tried to do, I haven't mastered it every day, but what I've done is I've turned my fear into motivation. So I think of myself and my little family. So my husband and my dog, right? We can control what we do. We can control our world, our tiny little world inside my house in Ahwatukee, right? So I'm like, okay, all these things that I can personally have control of, and this goes back to what Matt was saying about taking control of your own habits and taking control of your own life, especially in tragedy, is I've tried to think of things that, so every day I try to do one thing that will help my marriage or one thing that will help my household, and then I do one thing for me to try to heighten my skill level. So right now it's baking. I've always wanted to be really good at baking. So I have tried and failed at different recipes to try to up my skill level in that. And then for my own home and my husband and things like that, I've tried to do certain things that I have kind of put on the back burner for the past few years, both internally and as a wife and certain things like that, which is getting really deep. But essentially what I'm saying is I've tried my best to turn my fear into motivation and control the things that I can control. And I know you're a faithful person too, as is Brian, Joey, and Matt. And I very much stick with my faith in God during this because he's got it. It's in his hands.
Yeah. Thanks, Shay. I agree. Yeah. Definitely.
I absolutely love that, Shay. I think for one of the things that this has done for me personally is it's actually helped a ton with that relationship with God, which is really
totally
realizing and honing in. I called a student last night to just check in on him because he owns a bunch of restaurants in town, and my first thought was, man, like that's, it's got to be the same deal. We're going through it, we're adapting and making things work, but it is challenging. And so I was just calling him to just sort of like check in and to send him some encouragement. And I was just like crazy blown away by his response. Like his response was basically that like we got to stay positive and God's got a plan for this. And if we can look at it, it's a way to just tap into our love for him and our love for others. And he talked about how he's seen so much kindness and love spread during this time. So it's crazy, it's wild, but the acts of random kindness that are being displayed are crazy. Like my dad talked in our podcast the other day about somebody who came into the store and just found out, how many full-time employees do you have? They then went out and got gift cards for everybody around town, the restaurants, and then gave them each, I think it was $50 or $100 worth of local restaurant gift cards to support the local community and support the people who are working in the stores. And so like these acts of kindness are happening everywhere. So it really is helping us tap into that love center, which I think is just incredible. So
yeah, and the other good thing is when big crisis happens, all of a sudden the world turns to God. It's what happens. Yeah. And so all of a sudden it's not taboo to mention God's name anymore because everyone's like, you know what? Go ahead. I will take a prayer.
Use some of that help.
That sounds great. So that's that's another, just if we look at the positive, what is good coming from this right now? And I'd say that is one thing that is good coming out right now, is that we are focused on God more than before. Hey, so Brian asked me to read this little excerpt from my book here. I'm just going to read a couple paragraphs, but it's interesting because when I was writing on fear, I use an example that was a pandemic actually, and the point of this is that when you're faced with extreme fear, one of the best things you can do is take massive action. So Shay was talking about our meetings, and I was freaking out. Of course, I got the same information everybody else did when this first came out. And it's like, oh, wow, this thing looks pretty real. So we sat down and we said, all right, guys, here's what we're going to do. We are going to find a way to deliver to our students 10 times the value that they expect, 10 times the value than we've ever given. And we're going to do so in a virtual format. How are we going to do it? I have no idea. And we're going to fail, and we're going to fail big, but we're going to take massive action. We're going to work harder than we've ever worked, and we are going to give more than we've ever given. And it just got us super excited, and it gave us purpose, because one of the things you need is purpose. So to overcome fear, I want you to think about this idea of massive action. Okay, so here's the little excerpt here. In comparison to the 34,000 people who died of tuberculosis in 1950, and the 62,000 people who died from influenza in 1957. The deafening cry of the people demanding a cure for polio in 1952, which claimed just 3,000 lives, didn't make much sense. According to a timeline provided by the National Museum of American History, the polio virus was first described clinically by a British physician named Michael Underwood in 1789. The first U.S. outbreak of this epidemic form didn't occur until 1894 with 132 cases in the state of Vermont. In the next 50 years, thousands of people around the world died from this disease, including United States President Franklin Delano Roosevelt in 1945. Though polio was a major national health concern throughout the 1940s and 50s, so were many other illnesses. So why was it, after decades of passive attempts to negate the various epidemics sweeping through the nation, and with a raging war responsible for 36,000 deaths between 1950 to 1953, that the polio virus in 1952 became enemy number one? The answer, fear. And this is the good fear. The difference between tuberculosis, influenza, and polio is that of the 3,000 deaths attributed to polio, most of them were children. And among those who survived, 21,000 cases of paralysis occurred. So as you can imagine, the thought of losing a child or watching them suffer through becoming paralyzed caused great fear, especially among parents. So in response, mothers hit the streets to increase awareness, and they began a grassroots door-to-door campaign to raise money through the March of Dimes organization. Now, this is interesting. This massive action led to quickly funding the cultivation of a cure. Before 1952, though, the March of Dimes organization had been already in existence for 14 years, and various polio vaccines had already been in testing stages since at least 1935. So a cure was bound to be developed sooner or later, but it was the large-scale, massive action derived from the fear of mothers losing their children that brought the epidemic into the limelight and eventually to its knees. So the fact right now that we as a nation, we as a world, that our government is making these choices, that we are making these choices, we are taking massive action. And that's a big deal. So then within our own homes and within our own spheres of influence, we need to continue to take massive action. And by doing that, you will help alleviate your fear and do what Shay was talking about and be able to transmute that fear into something positive. So Danielle, let me before I let you off of our podcast, think for a second about massive action. Something you could do even today, massive action that would that would just be sort of extraordinary. What you got?
Well, I was thinking from educational purposes, just checking in with my students. Like, I've even reached out to all of them and I just told them, you know, guys, I know these are uncertain times. Like, I'm learning. We've never done online schooling. So I'm like, I'm learning with you, you know, bear with me. And I really miss you guys. So I'm just thinking, you know, if I can affect the people that are in my life, you know, even reaching out to my family, my boyfriend, then I think that can hopefully be like a raindrop effect and just trigger down.
Yeah, absolutely. And if and when you call, and if you say massive action for you could be to specifically think of a new person per day or something. But when you call, you are bringing light, you are bringing love, you are bringing gratitude. You are not focused on the latest news headline. And then that conversation, yes, it's going to sprinkle out all this goodness, and you're gonna encourage them to do the same thing we're encouraging people to do on this podcast, which is just find a way to quell the fear, acknowledge it. It's okay that you have it, but also continue to spread the love and the gratitude, because by doing that, your own fear will go away and you'll help other people as well.
Can I just say real quick, yesterday on my Instagram, I actually did that and it made me feel so much better, because I had like a little panic moment yesterday after hearing the news. But I said, I'm going to start a challenge. And then I said, okay, I'm going to do 5 things that I'm grateful for. And then I just tagged like a few friends, and then they told me what they were
awesome.
Grateful for. So that made me feel much better after doing that.
That
was really cool, Danielle.
That's incredible. Shay said that was really cool. She saw it. Yeah.
Oh,
Danielle can't hear you, Shay. I forgot to tell you that.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay. That's amazing. And see, that's the exact example of that. And that's what we want to do. When we're feeling the panic, admit it and then take massive action. And that is a massive action step right there. It's like, I'm willing to do something, take an active step that is going to reverse this feeling, rather than dwelling in it, because the temptation is going to be sit on the couch, watch Netflix, and just rotate between Netflix and the news, and that's going to cause depression. It really will.
Yeah, thank you. That's really helpful.
All right, thanks for being on, Danielle. Round of applause for Danielle. Woo! So we're going on like the hour here at this point, and I'm just like getting started here. So I don't know how much further we want to go with this. Maybe we need to do another one of these here soon.
We definitely should do another one soon, but we should also keep going because you're crushing it.
All right, cool. So let's keep going. So we had another question from Stephanie Minter, which I really loved, and we stopped and thanked some people. So I want to do this. She's in the mental health field, and so she is out there working right now. And I just want to say thank you specifically to Stephanie. Thank you for being out there. Thank you for helping people. And because she's in that field, she asked us how we are staying grounded. And I thought that was a really great question. So thank you, Stephanie Minter. The first way is sort of, we've mentioned a little bit of this earlier, but for me, the first way I'm staying grounded is by admitting my own feelings, allowing myself to feel them, but not dwelling in them. I find it to be very important to speak your feelings right away, speak what's going on, but also to seek from somebody the answer, the advice that you're hoping to get, and you can even coach them on that, because you know how you need to be pulled out of a funk. So a good example of this is I was feeling in a funk, and then I reached out to my wife just yesterday, and she reframed my mind and reminded me of all the beautiful things we have in our life. And from that, a really good idea came out for our new masterclass online. And it was like, oh, dang, like what an awesome thing this idea was. And it wouldn't have happened if I wasn't in a good frame of mind. But I went to the person that I knew was going to be able to pull me out. But I also had to coach her on it. Like, I had to come in saying, hey, here's how I'm feeling. This is exactly how I feel weighed down. And here's what I need to hear. Tell me what's good. Help me get out of this funk, because I desire so badly to give and to do positive things, and I just feel like I got punched in the stomach. And then she crushed. I mean, she really, really crushed. She said she found exactly what I needed to hear, and it was like incredible.
I think a huge key there is literally every single person is different, and the way that we handle things is different, handle news is different. And so such a key step there is going in and going, hey, this was even before this conversation, I believe, like letting her know this is exactly how I want to be handled in these situations, and this is what I would really love from you. It would mean a lot. And then once they know that, and then you frame them with that, like an improv framing, we frame them and set them up for that. We're setting them up for success, which is going to help us set us up for success. And then we can really help each other through this time, because we're all going to handle it a little differently.
Yeah. And then to stay grounded, that idea of staying grounded, and going to the right person, it's just like the news. If you go to a certain person and ask for advice, you know what you're doing. Mm-hmm. You know certain people are going to give you a certain form of advice. So don't ask the person the question who you know is going to just propel negativity back at you. Find the person that you think is going to hold you accountable and will be able to give you the information that you really need to make you feel better. On top of that, for just being grounded in general, and I think it's just so important. And, you know, Stephanie's a good example of who you should turn to. You know, she's a mental health professional. That would be somebody that you'd want to turn to. But also we got to focus on our breathing. We have to realize how much of this is real and how much of it we are allowing ourselves to fantasize about how bad it could be. Mm-hmm. So for some people, this is very real. It's right in their living room, and it's tough. For other people, it's mild symptoms, and for some people, it's nothing. And yet everybody acts like they are the ones sometimes on the deathbed. And so you don't always have to go that far with your feelings. You can allow yourself to acknowledge what is real in my reality right now. What is the truth? And just stay mindful of your own thoughts, because your thoughts are crazy powerful. And the more that you go down these negative paths, the more you're going to bring more negativity towards yourself. So we're going to breathe, we're going to be mindful, and then you got to focus on gratefulness, love, and giving. Mm-hmm. That's what happened with Danielle. She found a way to give through social media, and then boom, she felt better immediately. You got something to say, Joey?
Yeah, I was going to say this morning I was struggling because I don't know why. It was just like a weird morning. I wasn't feeling good. Like I had a bad headache, stomach ache, and just like feeling kind of crummy. And then I was trying to get a hold of my orthodontist because technically I had an appointment today, and they went out for the month. So,
is the camera on you right now?
Well, it's on the back of me.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
It's too bad because your dimples are great right now.
Oh.
Doesn't he look so cute? It's crazy.
Well, you could just, Brian will take care of that.
Yeah, we gotta give you a close up.
Make sure you get my good side, Brian.
That's both sides, Joey.
Wow, thanks. Anyway, wow.
Right? I mean,
wow.
It's like adorable.
Stupendous.
It's crazy.
Brian, that is not a good camera angle, bud. All right, so
Joey lost his train of thought because he can't handle all the compliments that are being given.
I know, it's tough.
I mean, Shay, if you saw what Brian just did, the camera was completely
wasn't good, but
sideways.
hey, you know, we gotta learn.
And I'm staring at it on the TV.
It's a tough stand.
All right, so your orthodontist went out of or is closed.
Yeah, so my orthodontist is closed, and I had this appointment, and so then I was trying to call, and then they didn't answer, and then they called right back about 5 minutes later, and she was on the phone, and she was like, "Yeah, we're actually gonna be closed until at least April 30th, so we'll schedule a tentative appointment for May 5th." And I was thinking in my head, I was like, well, one of my brackets is broken. Like it's been broken. It slides from tooth to tooth, right?
Yo, there's no NCAA tournament, but everybody's bracket got broken.
Oh, dang. No.
Oh, great.
So my point was that one of my brackets is broken, and like they take me in to get them tightened, right? And so I was like, well, if they're not gonna take me in, like that means I'm just gonna sit with metal in my mouth for an extra month because they're not getting any tighter.
So that made you more depressed?
Yeah. So
okay. It's getting worse.
It's just sitting there broken and like not getting tightened. So my teeth actually aren't getting better. They're just like it's sort of bringing the process backwards. And so for a second I was like, man, this sucks. I have just metal in my mouth for an extra month. That's like, because at least it's weird, but like when they're tight, it feels kind of good.
No, I get it, bro.
Because you're like, oh, at least
they're working. They're doing something.
Yeah, at least they're doing something. Now I'm like, well, I've already had them for 7 weeks. Now it's gonna be like 10 weeks where they haven't been tightened. So I was allowing myself to get upset about that, and I was just kind of in this funk. And then Brian came in and he was like, hey, I unloaded the dishwasher, but there's a ton of dishes, so if you would just do the dishes.
Is there a good part to this? I don't know, because it keeps getting worse.
Hang on.
All right.
It'll get there. It'll get there.
And then, so I took a deep breath, and I was like...
Then a rabbit climbed into your room. It just took a deuce.
No. So then I was thinking about it, and I was like, okay, right on. And then I was remembering your advice to give when you feel bad. And so then I was like, you know what? I'm gonna go do the dishes for Brian, even though like he could have done them. I'll do them.
Hold on. Called out. Called out. Hold on. Let him finish the story. Let him finish the story.
So then I went and did that, and he had come into the studio, and I was sitting there, and I was genuinely feeling better because I got to do action, and it was something I definitely didn't want to do. And then as I was sitting there, I was like, man, there's a lot of people right now who are like, either have the virus or being exposed to the virus.
Yeah.
And I'm worried about my mouth. Like, how selfish am I?
Or they wish they had a dish to clean. I mean, you know what I mean? You can go to the full extreme of this thing.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. So having that reassurance helped me a lot this morning. And that's what I wanted to point out was like that little self-talk I was able to give myself through the circumstances helped a lot with my mindset coming into this afternoon.
I love that, Joey. That actually brings me perfectly to the way I wanted to wrap this up, which was well, there's going to be like this one last thing that I'm going to recommend everybody do, but before that, we discussed the first responders and our gratefulness to them. In the video that we put out, I was very specific about the fact that we will remember. And I believe that. I believe all of us are going to remember the first responders, all the people that are out there serving us right now. We're legitimately going to remember them because this is a crisis. So we will remember the people that took care of us. But this thing hit me today. I was like, wow, not only will we remember them, but we are going to remember this. We're going to remember this time. So stop and acknowledge that for a second. Mm-hmm. The hardest times in your life that you got through the hardest time are usually the highlight moments of your life. Those are the things that you remember. So whether you realize it or not, we are all going to look back on this fondly. We're going to look back on it with joy. Honestly, I'm just to be blunt here. The people that survive are going to look back on it with joy. And we're going to be like, yeah, but remember when? And even the hardest times, even the worst of the worst, if you think about this, like when our grandfather died, and Brian was sick, so he couldn't be there, but I remember the family gathering around our grandfather, and I remember that being a beautiful time. Like,
I was there for that. I remember that.
Oh, you were there,
sure.
yeah.
So right after that.
Okay, so as bad as it might be when our loved ones are really sick or hurting, we are actually going to look back and go, yeah, but remember when we overcame that as a family? Mm-hmm. Remember when we got to the other side of it? So knowing that we're going to remember it fondly, the thought I had was, why don't we just decide to make good memories now?
Absolutely, yeah.
And to really think about it and to jot it down, to write down what we're doing and remember, like purposefully remember what we're doing. So like my wife and I were having a struggle when we're like, how are we going to have a date night? We're not allowed to have a babysitter over. There's nothing we can do. And then we had this idea and we created a 15-minute date at night. We put the kids to bed and we're like, it's 15 minutes that we just get to sit and be with each other and laugh. And it was so awesome. It was 15 minutes of bliss. And then we were like, dude, we could do this every night. Like, why don't we just have a 15-minute date night every night? And so something beautiful came out of this, and we can look back and say, wow, that was so awesome. It reminded me of when we moved into our home, our very first home that we had. We were so excited to move in that the home was empty. And we had the key, but we weren't technically supposed to be in there yet. And so we snuck in at like midnight the night before we were supposed to like officially get in. And we snuck into our own home and we slept on the floor in the master bedroom.
Oh my God.
And I'll never forget it. It was like the most beautiful, memorable thing. And it was the hard thing that we overcame in that moment because it was hard to get the house. And that was the thing I remember. I don't remember all this times that were easy.
Yeah.
You know? I think you were going to say something too, Brad.
Yeah, I was just going to say I've had several of those moments through this time and even thinking back to right after Grandpa with the hospital situation and the coma, like some of those memories are just precious to me. Like this, like remembering just family gathering and how many people were around, and just the realization of all that I had. And honestly, a lot of it didn't happen in the moment. Most of it, most of it. And I wish I had taken that mentality then. Most of it didn't happen then, of me realizing all the wonderful things that were happening.
Right.
All the beauty of the fact that literally I had family members flying in from other states to gather around and support me, and realize, God, how powerful is that? How amazing it is that I have this many people around me and in my life. And I didn't even thank a lot of them in that time. You know, there was a lot of working through, but like,
Yeah.
we have the power to do that right now.
Well, and I remember even helping you with some of this back then when I was like, hey, let's focus on what we can do and do these things. And now we look back and go, how cool and how awesome was that day that you took a first step again?
Yeah.
How amazing was it when you rode a bike for the first time again? I forced you on it and you fell.
Yeah.
But like you did it and you were like, dude, I feel so good after we're done with this.
I
you know?
forced you on it.
And it happens. It happens a single time.
Well, you know why? Because I was like, dude, we're not going to end your life, Bri. We're going to find out what you can do.
right.
Like, we're going to
That's
figure
right.
it out. And he can ride a bike. You
Of
just
course.
needed to remember
Dude,
that he could.
I was terrified to ride the bike. I was terrified to drive. Like, there are so many things. I just thank
I
you
just
for,
had
like,
gotten a new car. Just gotten a new car, and I forced Brian to drive it, and he was so scared. He's like, I don't want to drive your car,
terrified.
dude. And I'm like, you're driving my car. If you crash it, it's on me.
and it was so cool because you knew that was a possibility, but it was a possibility anytime, and it was all about just giving in those ways, and there were so many things like that, like the hospital rehab, coming
Yeah.
in and just Matt would come in and do sketches, just random sketches with me in the hospital, knowing I couldn't leave, and I missed comedy. I missed like doing some of these things, and I think there are probably things that people are missing right now. There are ways to supplement, there are ways to figure it out and make it such a powerful memory that we will never forget.
Absolutely. And I've been telling Brian this since day one, since all this happened to him, because he's a gifted human being and will be on massive stages speaking to people of all ages, especially teenagers, because he really connects with their hearts very, very deeply. But I've been telling him it's not what happened to him. It's the first step that he took afterward, the choice to make the first step. That's the story. The story is getting back on the bike and falling down. That's the story. Getting back in the car. That's the story. So we remember right now, if we focus on this, we are going to have a story. Literally, this is such a big deal that I promise you, all of our grandkids, if we're lucky enough to live that long and have grandkids, they're all going to ask us, what was it like to live through the coronavirus thing? Like, that was a big deal, huh? Like, it's just like the Great Depression. Like, they're gonna ask us, what was that like? What did you do? Stop and remember these times, because we are living in history right now.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's kind of weird to think about the fact that we're gonna be in a history book.
Totally.
For sure. Like,
And you're gonna know what side of history you were on.
yeah.
You're going to know if you were one of the people that were contributing, one of the people that were finding ways to push us forward, or one of the people that was just sitting on the sidelines. And either way, you're going to have a story to tell. But open the book, write your own story, because right now, you've for all of us in Arizona, we've got 30 days to write a story.
Yeah.
And what does your story look like? And that is the end here to what I wanted to, the very last exercise I want to give everybody. And this is something I just came up with. Literally last night, I was thinking, how cool would this be? We got 30 days. And this goes back to your thing, Shay, because you accidentally said about your friend that she's got to go to the car rental place. And it's interesting because a quick little reframing, and she could say, I get to serve. I get to be one of the people that has the story that was on the front line, right? So if we say to ourselves, we have to stay home for 30 days, but we get 30 days to write a story. And it's like, this is what I did during history. This was my contribution. So this is my challenge for everybody, and my challenge for myself. What could you do extraordinary each day? Something extraordinary you could do every day that's just... it's a standout. So Shay brought up some really cool ideas as far as like the way she's connecting with her husband and her work and personally. But be very specific and then write it down, jot this down, knowing that this little journal is something you can tuck away and pull out 30 years from now. And someone's like, hey, what was it like during the coronavirus? You're like, well, I'll tell you what, let me pull out my coronavirus journal. It's right here. Day 1, I held a podcast.
It's digital.
What's a podcast, Grandpa? Well, let me tell you.
It was the latest technology we had at the time.
Believe it or not, we were on the cutting edge, Sully. He's like, what do you mean, Grandpa? Like we weren't all virtual and holograms? No, we weren't. I can't believe you're 125, Grandpa. Well, I always knew I'd be 125. I called it.
That's your thing. I love that.
Well, it's true. So, but that's my challenge, okay? We got 30 days. Let's write this down. So even like, let's say for our team right now, we hustled. So this podcast could be a thing. Like, okay, that's like, okay, that could be a thing. This doesn't count for me, but 2 days ago, my wife and I decided, well, hey, let's do something that's going to be extraordinary for our family. And we put in our very first vegetable garden at our house. And it was really hard. It was a lot of hard labor to clear the landscape and build the whole thing.
Time out. Why doesn't this count?
Because it wasn't within the 30 days.
Oh, I got
So,
you.
I mean, I'll jot it down, but it was
Yeah.
like, it doesn't count for my challenge because I want to do something every day.
I got you.
But you know what? Planting the, because we haven't actually planted the vegetables yet.
Yeah,
that,
you
that
gotta
could
plant
be
the seeds.
That could be something one day.
Yeah.
Thank you, Joey. That's great. But that would be an example. You know, just doing something. I even thought on a simple term, you could decide, I'm gonna call so and so. Maybe it's my grandparent or somebody I think might be lonely, and I'm literally gonna set the timer for 30 minutes, and I'm gonna commit to being fully present during that phone call for 30 minutes. That's an extraordinary feat. So what is something big that's bigger than you even think you could do, and you decide every day I'm gonna do something that's kind of memorable that deserves to be in my journal.
And this 30-day challenge would start today, correct?
It starts tonight at 5 p.m. So yeah,
5 p.m.
So technically today is the very first day of the 30 days, I believe, according to the governor's
Governor Doug
whatever
Ducey.
you call the executive order. So we have BB back on, I believe. Can we bring her back in really quick?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Just
I forgot to mention something to BB. Hello, BB. Are you still listening to the podcast?
It's going to take her a second to connect into audio, but yeah, I believe so. Hello, BB.
Hello.
Hello,
I'm
BB.
back.
Are you still with us?
She is just a little laggy because of that Wi-Fi that's in and out, I think.
Why is our Wi-Fi in and out?
No, her Wi-Fi, remember?
Wi-Fi.
Shut
Oh,
down.
BB,
Yeah.
get better Wi-Fi.
Get it going.
get an Ethernet cable.
For real, dog. Nobody
Well-
can see you or hear you.
She froze and gone.
Well, that was a little anti.
That was totally not. She's done this to us twice now.
Yeah.
So I don't know what I'm supposed to do
Hurtful.
because I could say what I was gonna
Tell
say
you
to
what,
BB,
tell
but
you
then
what.
she's gonna come back and then she's gonna be like, "Oh, I'm back," and then I'll
Let's-
have to repeat what I said
Let's
to her.
hang up on Shay.
try
and
things.
let's call her from my cell phone.
All right, Shay, we love you. We'll call you right back.
Okay, thanks.
Or
guys.
just
Bye.
conference her in. You can just conference her in, right?
Oh, can I?
I don't know.
I guess
I'll
we
try
are
it.
discovering new
Let's
things.
try. Well, you know what?
Well,
we did.
BB's back.
Okay, guys.
During
She's
that
back.
podcast.
I'm
She's
back.
back.
I'm back. I'm back.
Ladies and
I'm
gentlemen, BB is back.
Yay! We were just making fun of you on this podcast like you wouldn't believe, BB.
Back. Oh, I bet. Yeah.
You flunked on us twice.
All right, so are you with us so far? You've been following along?
I am. Yes.
All right, so
Yes.
here's I'm going to throw this at you. I'm about to throw you a ball, and you can decide to catch it or not. All right, you ready?
Yeah.
I'm not.
Wait.
Whoa, that was like, yeah.
No, she's anticipating. I know, BB. She's like, okay, what's going on here? All right, here's the deal. We decided that we were not going to let anybody into masterclass late. If you miss the deadline, you miss the deadline. If you find a scene partner,
No.
if you find a scene partner,
I want to see this. Stop
if you
lagging.
find a scene partner and you decide to do masterclass, I will let you in because I know you will do the work and I know it will be an extraordinary thing for you. It will give you purpose. It'll give you something to be very excited about over the next 2 weeks. we are doing our very first virtual masterclass, and it's going to be insanely cool. I've already started planning the whole thing. Like, I know it sounds weird, but it's going to be legit amazing. So I'm throwing that your way. That is for you. It's your ball. You can pick it up if you want to, but I know you're passionate about acting, so we'll find out if BB is in our virtual masterclass or not. I'm not repeating what I said, BB. There's no way.
But the good news is,
just got Ken.
the good news is this is a live podcast that you can go back and watch as well. You can rewind.
And you will. You will go back. You will go back and you will watch, because
Rewind.
I just threw the gauntlet on you. I threw out a challenge, and it's up to you now. We'll see if a USC Trojan is willing to stand up to the challenge, and I don't know. I mean, I know if she was a Sun Devil, she would.
It definitely if she was a Sun Devil. So
Guaranteed if she was a Sun Devil. Let me hear it, Joey.
Here we go.
Go Devils, go!
Yeah.
But you know what? We have friends over at USC. We've got family members over there. We got BB, so we don't hate them unless they're playing us. So BB, if you're willing to pick up the challenge, your entire school reputation is on the line. That is what's going on. So I believe we should wrap up here. We're not picking up BB's phone call. We are not picking it up. We are not picking up her phone call.
You're not getting picked up right now.
We gotta wrap this thing up. Okay, so here we go. I'm gonna do a little bit of a recap here, and then if anyone has anything last they want to say, we can do that.
Wonderful.
But here's your wrap up to remember how you are guaranteed 100% you can thrive. Why you? What's going on?
He's watching BB's stuff. She's sending texts to him.
Spam text, and she said in all caps. Ah!
I know, but here's the thing. Control your emotions. Don't turn off your phone. Flip it over.
Or silence.
Flip it over. Because I'm trying to wrap this thing right now. The audience is dying for me to wrap this
I'm
thing.
dying for you to wrap it.
I'm dying to wrap
I'm pretty sure it's just my parents on here at this point.
That's fine. I'm dying to eat my tamale here, and
this is gonna be on YouTube afterwards for
of course,
people to watch and learn
so
and grow from.
You don't eat my tamale, Joey. All right, so Joey's gone crazy because we've been on here a long time. Here's a wrap up. Just a reminder for everybody how you can guarantee yourself to thrive while you're in lockdown. Number 1. Habits. Create your own habits that are yours, that are not forced upon you. Highly recommend affirmations because they will help with your thought life. You need to focus on your mind, body, spirit each and every day. Try to bookend your day. That's number 1. Number 2, focus on can versus can't. Yes, there's a lot of things we cannot do. Cool. We get that. What can you do? Focus on what you can do. Try not to be the person who's bringing up problems without having some sort of a solution. Try to come up with solutions. What can I do? Number 3, admit how you feel. It's okay. Then get help from the right person that you know is going to put you in a good frame of mind. Remember to breathe, be mindful, be grateful, be loving, be giving. And finally, take on this 30-day Be Extraordinary challenge. And I guarantee you, we as a team guarantee you that if you do all of these things every day, there may be ups and downs. Everyone's going to have ups and downs. But if you do all this really and you commit to it and you take Masterclass if you're offered it, guaranteed 100% that you will thrive. Mark my words.
That ends
Absolutely.
our live podcast. Thank you, Shay. Thank you, Deering team. Thank you, Danielle and BB, for being our special guests. Have a Deering day, everyone.
Woo!